With the rising water levels today, the Department of Water Resources expects to begin releasing water down the spillway at Lake Oroville.
The dam is doing something few thought might ever happen again, getting rid of water in a still rainy season to make room for more.
Lake Oroville rose 23 feet overnight. No rain, no storm, no explanation. 7 billion gallons of ancient water surged into California's most critical reservoir while everyone slept. The chemical analysis came back, showing water that's been trapped underground for tens of thousands of years. And the pressure readings inside the dam? Engineers say they're pulsing with a rhythm that shouldn't be physically possible. Here's what has scientists terrified. If this water is coming from where they now suspect, the surge might just be the beginning. From the impossible readings. The first alert hit the control room at 2:17 a.m. A station on the dam's eastern side logged the water at 847.3 feet. By 6 a.m., that number had climbed to 870.1 feet. In less than 4 hours, the lake had gained over 22 feet of elevation without any identifiable cause. The operators assumed equipment failure. That's always the first assumption when instruments report the impossible. But the backup systems confirmed the readings. Manual gauges matched digital numbers within 2 inches. 3 independent systems, all telling the same impossible story.
Well, Tony, it turns out the water weight in the Sierra can literally move mountains. But what is more interesting is the technique NASA used to measure this movement could benefit water managers in the future.
A technician named Ray Delgado later told investigators his stomach dropped when he realized the instruments weren't broken. They were telling the truth about something that shouldn't be happening. When the sun rose, crews drove out to verify what the data claimed. The water line had moved inland by more than 60 feet overnight. The intake tower, normally surrounded by exposed rock, now had waves hitting its lower platform. Buoys anchored months earlier were floating in positions that didn't match their documented coordinates. Driftwood rested on benches that should have been 10 feet above water. The crew walked the perimeter in stunned silence. Everything they were seeing contradicted everything they knew about how reservoirs behave. A supervisor named Elena Vasquez scrawled one note in the incident log, her handwriting barely legible from the tremor in her hand. Shoreline has moved, not a computer error. God help us. And get this. When the lab results came back, Elena's face went white, because what they found in that water would change everything. Why this dam should terrify you. Lake Oroville isn't just another reservoir. It's the beating heart of the State Water Project, the largest public water system ever built. More than 27 million Californians depend on what flows through its gates. Farms across the Central Valley calibrate entire growing seasons around its levels. Every foot the water rises translates to millions of gallons and billions of dollars. And the people living in its shadow, they've seen what happens when this dam goes wrong. The ghosts that never left. The scars from 2017 have never healed. That February, heavy rains pushed the lake toward capacity. Engineers activated the main spillway to relieve pressure. Within hours, a crater opened in the concrete. Mud and water exploded down the hillside as the structure disintegrated in real time. The emergency spillway, a dirt hillside never tested under real conditions, started eroding within minutes. The head cut carved backward toward the dam itself. Officials ordered 188,000 people to evacuate immediately. The largest dam-related evacuation in American history. Families fled with whatever they could carry. Children crying in back seats, sirens echoing through the canyons for hours. The terror of not knowing if everything you owned would still exist when you returned.
The last time this happened was 6 years ago when 188,000 people downstream were forced to evacuate their homes and properties.
Maria Santos was one of them. She still lives less than 50 yards from the current shoreline. Every time I hear a loud noise at night, I'm back in that car, not knowing if my house would exist when I got back. That fear never really goes away. It just waits. When the gauges started climbing this week without any explanation, Maria didn't wait for official word. She didn't call the emergency line. She started packing waterproof bins with photo albums and birth certificates. I'm not waiting for a siren this time. I've got grandkids now. We leave when I say we leave. But here's the thing. The water samples were about to reveal something that made 2017 look like a rehearsal. If you're watching this unfold in real time, hit subscribe, because what the sensors recorded next changes everything. The chemistry that changes everything. The Department of Water Resources activated emergency protocols before noon. Every drain, every seep, every inch of the structure suddenly required inspection. But it was the lab results that made the room go silent. Dr. Thomas Chen, a hydrogeologist who's studied Oroville for 15 years, went pale when he saw the isotope analysis. His assistant said he sat down hard and didn't speak for a full minute. Lithium concentrations 4 times higher than normal. Boron levels typically found only in deep geothermal systems. Rare earth elements indicating contact with superheated rock far beneath the surface. Here's the catch. The oxygen and hydrogen ratios didn't match Sierra Nevada precipitation. Not even close. This water had been isolated from the atmosphere for an extraordinarily long time. This wasn't rain. This wasn't snowmelt. This wasn't anything that fell from the sky within living memory. Dr. Chen finally spoke, barely above a whisper. This water is older than human civilization, and it just showed up overnight. But the chemistry was about to reveal something that made even Chen's discovery look like a footnote. The seismic connection. When investigators pulled earthquake records, a pattern emerged that made everyone stop breathing. A cluster of microseismic events had occurred directly beneath the eastern portion of the lake, too small for humans to feel, but clearly detectable. And the timing correlated almost perfectly with the surge. Dr. Rachel Okonkwo, a consulting seismologist, pulled up historical surveys showing deep fractures in the bedrock beneath Oroville, fault systems that could connect subterranean aquifers to the reservoir floor. Under normal conditions, these pathways stay sealed by rock pressure, she explained. But seismic activity can change that instantly. Basically, if pressure in a deep aquifer exceeds pressure in the lake above, water finds a way up. The fractures don't need to open wide, just enough. This explained the chemistry, the seismic correlation, even why it happened at night. But it raised questions far more disturbing, because deep aquifer intrusion wasn't the nightmare scenario. The nightmare scenario was something else entirely. The scenario they won't discuss, on record. Deep inside dam structures, water becomes an invisible destroyer through a process called piping. Water finds a microscopic pathway, carries away soil particles, grain by grain. The pathway widens. By the time evidence appears on the surface, the damage is catastrophic. Here's the deal. Some readings from Oroville's drainage systems are making engineers extremely nervous. A dam safety inspector named Marcus Webb admitted his hands were trembling as he reviewed seepage data. Turbidity has increased. Pressure sensors show fluctuations matching the surge's rhythm. Certain instruments are reporting values not seen since 2017. History provides sobering context. Idaho's Teton Dam collapsed in 1976 because piping went undetected. 11 people died. Italy's Vajont disaster killed over 2,000 when authorities ignored warnings. The pattern is always the same, early indicators that seem manageable. Then sudden, irreversible failure. One USGS geologist, speaking only anonymously, admitted, "There's a scenario we're not allowed to discuss publicly. If what's happening beneath Oroville is what some of us suspect, the state has maybe weeks to figure it out. But we still haven't told you about the readings keeping structural engineers awake at night." The concrete is talking. Independent engineers deployed advanced monitoring equipment to gather definitive data. High-frequency hydroacoustic sensors creating three-dimensional maps of subsurface water movement. Pressure transducers along the dam's concrete face and within its deep foundations, measuring whether the structure itself is under abnormal stress. The results? Terrifying.
New this morning, right now the DWR is using the Oroville Dam's main spillway for flood control releases. This is what the spillway looked like a couple of hours ago, and I just checked, there is now water flowing down the spillway.
The concrete has begun producing acoustic emissions, high-frequency sounds associated with microscopic stress fractures forming within the structure. Normally, these readings are scattered, random, and meaningless. But the pattern emerging now is rhythmic, cyclical, almost like a heartbeat, like something breathing inside the concrete. Dr. Patricia Reyes, a structural integrity specialist who's evaluated dams across 3 continents, refused to go on camera. Off the record, She said something that stayed with us. Dams don't pulse. Concrete doesn't have a heartbeat. What we're measuring shouldn't exist. And I don't know what to tell the people downstream. Meanwhile, the human cost is already cascading through the valley in ways nobody anticipated. The ripple effects. Downstream, the natural world is buckling under strain that nobody predicted. Frank Morrison has farmed almonds in the valley for 40 years. Last Tuesday, he watched irrigation water hit his orchards and knew immediately something was wrong. Brown, thick, smelled like wet pennies. Whatever's coming out of that lake, it's not the water I've used my whole life. My trees are drinking something different now, and I don't know what it's going to do to them. The turbidity is a death sentence for salmon populations. Fine particles coat the gravel beds where fish spawn, effectively suffocating the next generation before it can hatch. Biologists monitoring the river report fish behaving erratically, swimming in tight circles, refusing to feed. And get this, the violent movement of water is disturbing legacy contaminants from old mining operations that have sat dormant at the lake bottom for decades. Mercury, lead, arsenic. Compounds that remain safely buried as long as nothing disturbed them. Water treatment plants in downstream counties are reporting filtration systems clogging with a fine crystalline material that doesn't match any known sediment profile. The substance shimmers under UV light with an almost iridescent quality that technicians have never encountered. If these toxins enter the main current, the flood won't just be property damage. It will be long-term poison for the entire watershed. Theories experts won't publicly endorse. When official explanations fail to materialize, alternative theories rush in to fill the void. But here's what's unsettling. Some of these theories are coming from credentialed scientists who simply won't attach their names. One theory gaining serious traction in private academic circles: a massive ancient sea trapped beneath the Sierra Nevada, sealed away for millions of years. The recent micro-earthquakes might have finally cracked it open. It would explain everything, one Stanford geophysicist told us anonymously. The mineral content, the isotope signatures, the impossible volume. If we're looking at primary water, virgin water that's never been part of the surface hydrological cycle, the implications are staggering. Others point to heat signatures in the samples. If a pocket of magma is migrating upward through the crust, it could be acting like a piston, forcing ancient groundwater through fractured rock and into the lake. If true, the 23-foot surge isn't the main event. It's a warning shot. Then there's the theory nobody wants to discuss publicly, that human activity, deep drilling, classified government projects, accidentally punctured something that should have stayed sealed forever. Residents near the eastern arm have reported unmarked vehicles and equipment in areas that should be completely empty. No agency has claimed responsibility. Coincidence? The timing is impossible to ignore. The weight of what's coming. There's a phenomenon reservoir managers fear deeply: reservoir-induced seismicity. Billions of gallons pressing on fractured bedrock can trigger earthquakes. If Oroville keeps filling from this unexplained source, the added mass could destabilize dormant fault systems. The water meant to sustain California might become the catalyst for seismic events that reshape the landscape. 7 billion gallons, no rain, no explanation, and still rising. What happens next? As the sun sets over Oroville, casting long shadows across water that sits 6 inches higher than it did an hour ago, the surface remains agitated despite no wind. Small white caps form and dissolve in patterns that seem almost deliberate, like something massive is breathing just beneath. Maria Santos stands at her kitchen window, truck packed, grandkids' car seats already strapped in. Her neighbor's wooden dock, once the site of summer barbecues, is completely submerged now. She's not waiting for anyone's permission to leave. Ray Delgado is back in the control room, watching gauges climb toward numbers nobody can explain. He's been awake for 36 hours. His hands still haven't stopped shaking. Dr. Chen is running the isotope analysis again, hoping he made a mistake. He didn't. And somewhere beneath the lake, something ancient continues pushing upward. 7 billion gallons and counting. They know the water rose 23 feet in a time frame that defies physics. They know the chemistry points to sources older than recorded history. They know the concrete is pulsing with a rhythm that shouldn't exist. What they don't know is whether it will stop, whether the dam will hold, What else might be down there, sealed for millions of years, now finally finding its way to the surface? In a state that spent years praying for water, the terrible irony is becoming clear. The danger might not be drought anymore. The danger might be what's waking up beneath us. What would you do if the water in your town rose 23 feet in the dark with no explanation? Is the government hiding the real danger to avoid panic? Let us know in the comments and make sure to like and subscribe for more. Thanks for watching.